Hi, I'm Dante,
And I'm Tommy.
and you're listening to Twigging Onto Twig, a podcast where we talk about Wildbow's most pseudocidal web serial, Twig.
In today's episode, we are talking about Lips Sealed 3.3 and 3.4.
Our audiobook descriptions for this week 3.3, in which Sai once again takes a great risk on behalf of his little family. But then again, what else is new?
And 3.4, here's a chapter that hints at some interesting information about the Lamb's trainings. As a matter of fact, I rather approve of the particular sort of testing Sai talks about here. So we're going to get into that a little bit later, I think. But first, the most important question I have right now, Dante, is what are we going to do when we run out of these, when we catch up to the audiobook?
Cry.
It's these nice, cogent, coherent segments of text, and you're going to have to actually read.
Yes. Well, I'll figure out the reading. Maybe we can make up our own audiobook descriptions. And then we'll send them to Kimberly Dauber, and she'll have to use them
because we've been using hers
for,
this
for,
entire
for
time.
all of her future episodes.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So any housekeeping or announcements you can think of currently?
I don't think so. Announcement. We're doing another episode.
Yeah, this is an episode.
Did you?
No, nothing else. Just looking forward to... We're getting closer and closer, presumably, to a future Wildbow work, but...
That is true. I think he said sometime this spring.
I had remembered March, but I don't want to, be pedantic about that kind of thing.
Yeah. We'll see when we see, but yeah, that's very exciting.
Getting there.
Yeah. So let's jump in to the content. These two chapters are pretty light, which is
transitional. We get a lot of Sai and how Sai manipulates people and or a particular person, but his thought process in doing so. But beyond that, this, we just are ultimately pretty much in the same position at the end of these chapters that we were in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Except that now that they have a bit of a relationship with these convict zombie.
Yes. So whether the lightness of the chapter translates into a shorter episode remains to be seen. But
yep. I don't think we've learned much about the actual arc or much of the plot of this arc. And we're still Sub Rosa as much of an enigma as she was 2 chapters ago. I mean, if not even more, because she's acting in a way that Sai doesn't feel like he can predict or anticipate based on what he knows of what she should be doing.
Yeah. Well, if we're hinting at the stuff that happens, do we want to get into the plot summary?
Right. I guess, that we can talk about the prisoner's dilemma later on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So previously, Sub Rosa and her friends had the Lambs cornered.
In 3.3, the convicts are advancing on the Lambs, and the leader of the convicts knocks out Sai's tooth with his spike and is about to attack him again, but Sub Rosa passes them by, barely acknowledging them, and then turns around and glares at them until they make peace. The Lambs pretend to join the convict gang behind Sub Rosa.
Add that she
you want to add something?
Yes, she pets Sai's head.
Yes, she does.
Which is creepy, but yeah.
But she doesn't murder them or anything like that, like they were expecting.
Exactly.
So Sub Rosa passes them by, patting his head and not murdering them, but glares at the convict dude until he makes peace. At this point, the Lambs pretend to join the convict gang behind Sub Rosa.
Pretending that they are also experiments. They are, but not in the same...
Also in the same position as the convict gang. And they realize that she's heading towards this relative of the scientist who created Sub Rosa. And we joked that this relative, they said that she was worked on bugs and surveillance, and so we were like, this is a Skitter reference. So
yep. Though it feels less likely that she's a direct Skitter reference now that she's not a, one passing mention.
But I think we're going to continue to refer to her as Skitter in this episode. Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah. So then in 3.4, Sai, while he's manipulating the convict leader, reminisces about a prisoner's dilemma game that Hale used to make them play to make sure that the lambs were able to work in concert. Doing so, he wins over the convict leader and pretends to murder a scientist. Lillian also pretends to murder a scientist, and Cy is very proud of her. Mary decides to try and murder a convict instead, and Cy is disappointed in her, but Cy is still able to talk the convicts out of murdering Mary. And at this point, all the scientists are either dead or fake dead, and Sub Rosa is about to enter Skitter's lair.
Dum dum dum.
Again, every
That was,
chapter.
I think that was the same cliffhanger as last time. Like there was also the cliffhanger of the convicts advancing on her, but there was
Yeah,
also the reveal that that's where they were headed.
headed. I believe so. And also, I think we're still in basically the same position of, are these creatures or are these convicts, are these people going to be hostile? We don't know. Now we know that they could be, but it's still like a tenuous balance. And I'm
Yes,
sure they're ready to murder each other.
yes. So I think that like there's a kind of, I said it was a light couple of chapters, but there is a decent amount of stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's Psy uh, dynamic with these convicts, which I think we'll talk about later
Hmm.
in the character section. There's the whole
What is Sub Rosa? Who is she? What is she doing?
well, yeah, but that's just kind of an ongoing thing. That wasn't really a thing that happened in this chapter.
No, that's true. But we did get a bit about maybe some motivation. But
Hmm. But I think that the big thing was just the attempt to murder the scientists
hmm
and the pitting of and this game that he's playing. Like, what will Gordon do? What will Mary do? What will Lillian do?
and he gambled wrong on Mary.
Yes. But before that, I want to also mention that the most important thing that happened
Hmm.
in this chapter was that the convict leader took Sai's badge away,
I
and
contemplate.
Sai said that he complicate the Sai said, "I contemplated killing him. The game be damned."
I
And
mean, we
who
all
can
know that
blame him?
Sai wouldn't have been able to, and he in fact says that later on when he's like thinking about, like, upset that Mary did what she did. It's like there's no way I could have killed him. Which again, Sai is an unreliable narrator. Um, I did also like that. Yeah, Sai is not going to let this go without a fight because he immediately takes Mary's badge. If
Yes. So now his name is Mary because I assume that their names are on the badges and that's their ID.
maybe, yeah, I didn't. I just assumed it was like a bronze sheriff badge type thing, star, and it
I
just
mean, it
says
could be,
badge.
but then anyone could just use it.
Yeah, I mean
Now the
this
convict could use
convict
it
guy
and be
does
like,
it. He did. He took it and he's using it to like open up doors and stuff.
hmm, okay. I'm going to imagine that it has their names on it now so that Sai can be Mary.
Okay, I just still picture it saying badge.
Yes. That would actually be funnier if it just said badge. Like, it doesn't even say, like, by the authority of the
No,
Academy, let us pass. It just says badge.
I'm not going to spend money or resources on anything more. They had these badges in the storage somewhere. Like, fine, we'll just recycle them, pull them out.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. So, to get into the whole dilemma thing,
hmm
um, I thought it was a really interesting way of kind of like because it like adds tension.
Yeah,
Because Sai has to figure out what's going on and make a move, and the convict
trust.
leader is about to smash his face in if he makes the wrong move.
Yeah.
But it also like does a lot of work developing like how does Sai think
hmm
and operate, and also shows a lot about Lillian and Mary at the same time, and about how the lambs work together. So it's kind of doing a lot all at once,
Yeah.
which I thought was super interesting.
Right. You're talking about the prisoner's dilemma
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah. And just it's interesting that that's what Hale used as a building methodology, for lack of a better word, because it forces them to communicate in a way that cannot necessarily be traced or detected by others. They have to understand and know each other on a level that others don't, so that they
Mhm.
do
I
the
suppose
right
we
thing.
should mention like what the game was,
Sure. Let me pull it
in
up.
case people forget what the game is and don't remember what we're talking about. So it says one of the tests was one that involved all of us, probably because Hale liked it, and because he was interested in how we functioned as a group. Each of us were given a set of choices to make, selfish and kind. He mixed it up, added new rules, organized us into teams, pitted us against regular students.
Hmm.
But the dilemma was simple usually. If both parties were kind, both received a minor benefit. If both were selfish, both were punished. If one was kind and the other selfish, the selfish one was rewarded and the kind one punished.
Yep. And then later continues with the trick with Hale's game. The reason I've been able to win so consistently was that the game was never a standalone thing. There were hundreds or 1,000 clues communicated over past iterations of the game, informing the most current game. It was these clues I relied on now. I could trust Gordon and Helen to match pace with me. We'd faced Hale's test enough times as a group to know how each of us thought. Jamie could remember the results of each game he'd participated in, and that would inform his decision. I trusted him more than anyone, which is, a given with Jamie and Cy. The real question, the test of our group cohesion, was, well, what choice would Lillian make, and what choice would Mary make? Lillian was kind, a healer more than a killer. Mary was the opposite, though she wasn't unkind exactly. And I mean, the fact that they. So I'm trying to articulate this thought because they both act kind of in the way that Cy was expecting them to act, both Mary and Lillian, but also in a way that was unpredictable. You know, Cy kind of anticipates that Mary would kill someone, but did not anticipate that it would be, not a scientist, but one of the convicts, to build to set up her uh, alibi or her legitimacy, versus Lillian, who quote unquote kills the scientist, but does so in a way that is potentially dangerous, but keeps the scientist safe.
Yeah. Well, she does the same thing he does,
Yeah, fakes it.
which is fake it.
Hmm.
It'd be funny if Mary just went in and just destroyed everyone,
Yeah,
like convict and scientist both.
it doesn't quite have it in her, it seems.
Yeah. But it was interesting that both went against their
Instinct.
instinct. So I guess they both kind of like. I wonder if they were both like not even thinking. Like Gordon is thinking of this game,
Hmm.
presumably. Jamie is thinking of the game. Helen is thinking of the game, and they all know
That it
that.
exists.
Pardon?
That it exists
That
as
it
a.
exists, yeah,
Yeah.
and that in order to succeed, they will need to play the game
Hmm.
and make friends with the convicts.
Yeah.
But I don't think Lillian and Mary are at all even thinking along those lines at all.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about the game, as it
Well, they
were,
don't know about the game,
it
but
doesn't. Yeah, they're just that shared context doesn't exist for them.
mhm. But I don't think they're even thinking about. I don't think they're even thinking about what are the others doing and what should I do in order to make the whole group win altogether. I think they're just making individual decisions like, do I do this or do I do that?
Maybe, but I think what we're meant to get out of this is that Psy has said more often than not that Mary's like really effortlessly slotted into the lambs versus Lillian, who's not really a lamb. And I think it's telling that Lillian does what the lambs do, whereas Mary does not. Sort of showing us narratively that Psy doesn't necessarily get them as well as he thinks he does.
I think that's true. He doesn't. I also just had a thought that, um, oh, the thought left again.
No,
Oh
no.
well.
I thought.
um, yeah. So I really should have written more notes here.
Same. Yep.
I decided to just be like, oh, this will be
We'll wing it.
this is yeah, we'll just wing it. I'm not good at winging it. This is why we write such compendious notes usually.
Normally, yep.
Yeah, this is going to be a very entertaining episode while we just hem and haw.
Mm, things.
um, yeah, shall we move on to world building
Sure.
then?
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
we're still ensconced deep in the bowels, so we don't learn much about things outside of the bowels in this game, or not this game. These chapters.
this movie.
Yep.
I thought it was so. I think the real big new concept that we see in this world building is the security measures. When
Hmm.
Sub Rosa goes to open the locked door, she essentially just takes the security panel off, and
Hmm.
instead of there being just electronics to fry, she reaches in and grabs a bunch of wires. And Sai says that the wires look like mummified intestines.
Yeah. So presumably some kind of hydraulic system, you know, pressures and liquids to slam doors into place when they're no longer balanced properly.
Okay, that's interesting. See, when he said they were wires, I assumed that that was correct. They were wires.
Oh,
Um, so metal cables
yeah.
wrapped in
Intestine.
intestine. So I assumed also that they look like intestines, but probably aren't. But
I assumed it's a fluid holding
but
thing.
like I assumed that they look like the intestines, but aren't. But I thought it was more fun to think of them as if they were, because we like to imagine that the academy would grow intestines around a cable to insulate it
Bowels
rather than to.
is actually a giant monster sleeping under the house.
Oh, well, we do know that there is some sort of buried
True.
monster under the academy. Maybe the monster under the academy is
The
the
bowels.
academy.
Maybe.
Or
You know,
is the
I
bowels.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I had really just assumed it was a hydraulic system, and just because they're not using, because they are creepy Frankenstein monster scientists, they're just using body
Mhm.
parts rather than
Yeah.
tubes and piping.
But it was really interesting how, to me, the thing I found interesting about this was how mechanical it was.
Hmm.
Um, because, like, she's literally pulling on the wires
Yeah,
to make things happen. So it's like almost like a pulley system,
and
is how I was picturing it.
it's interesting that she knows also what to be doing down there.
Yes.
I know we talked about that last episode. Like, why does she have this knowledge? Why does she have this information? But
Yeah. Well, she definitely knows how the security systems work.
yeah.
So either she was part of designing them or got access to some
Yeah.
records, which I
It's
don't imagine that the Academy keeps records of those things.
Well, I mean, isn't it pretty explicit that the bowels are built kind of randomly? It's just this like pit with spikes shooting off in random directions.
It certainly seems that way. Maybe it's like
Maybe because it's organic. It's a big
maybe it's
creature.
like in Harry Potter,
It just
um,
shifts.
where it's just like every staff member just kind of makes their own little trap and hopes that
Sure.
the sum of them all together will
Hmm.
suffice.
I could see that. It
Yeah.
might also just be again because the bowels is just the giant monster that has burrowed itself into the ground, and therefore it's
Yes. And so Sub Rosa is literally reaching
into the guts of
into
the
this
monster,
monster's guts and pulling its intestines around.
rearranging its guts.
Yes. And that's what causes,
Hmm.
the thumps and rushing liquids and all the other weird noises that they hear
Yeah.
before the door finally opens. So there's a lot, like, that's just one random door. Like, there's so
Hmm.
many doors they go through.
Oh, and then yeah, Sub Rosa just jiggles one out of the socket, basically.
Mm-hmm. I kind of imagine she would just like reach in and pull someone out and
But
be
she was just
like,
like, "Fuck, fuck, 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 fuck."
yes, shaking the door until it
Yeah.
finally.
And the Academy's roaring, "Don't fucking jiggle it." All right. So, anything else you want to talk about the Academy structure and the Academy itself?
uh, nope. So let's go on to historical references, which we had one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this, let me find the quote. I reached the door. It was a large piece of metal. Oh, this was when he is trying to get
Mm-hmm.
the scientists to open the door.
Yeah.
And he knocks on the door. Shave and a haircut, 2 pence.
Yeah. The historical version is actually shave and a haircut, 2 bits.
Yes. When I first saw that, I was kind of thinking, like, oh, I heard it as 2 bits growing up. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe Wildbow heard it as 2 pence. But then I was like, no, of course not. This is probably a deliberate choice for this medium
Yeah.
because it's all Britishified.
Exactly. It's Yep. Though according to Wikipedia, real quick, the final words can also be "get lost" or "drop dead."
Hmm.
So,
So where does shave and a haircut come from?
um,
Since you have the Wikipedia
yeah,
article open.
the earliest occurrence of the tune itself is from an 1899 Charles Hale minstrel song at a Darktown cakewalk. Other songs from the same period also used the tune. The same notes form the bridge in the Hot Scotch Rag, written by H.A. Fisher in 1911.
Yeah, so this tune is shave and a haircut, 2 bits.
Yeah. An earlier recording used the seven-note tune at both the beginning and the ending of a humorous 1915 song by Billy Murray and the American Quartet called On the 515. In his 1933 novel, His Honour the Mayor, Joel Sayer wrote off boats, tooting the official Malta welcome blast to the tempo of Shavin' a Haircut 2 bits, Shavin' a Haircut 2 bits, Shavin' a Haircut 2 bits, which was soon taken up by every craft in the harbor that had a boiler. So that novel seems to be the first instance of it written as Shaving a Haircut 2 bit, though the fact that it seems to be a ubiquitous bit of melody.
Okay,
Um,
so what was the year again?
that it was used as that, written in 1933, the novel, but the first instances of the recording itself seem to be in 1899. But the fact that it exists means that it was likely like part of common folk culture.
Sure. So,
So
but this is taking place in 1921, I think, right? So this actually predates.
yeah, but I'm assuming that if he's using it as that frame, like it's being used in 1933 in the novel. Again, the phrasing is tooting the official Malta welcome blast to the tempo of Shaving a Haircut 2 bits, which assumes that the audience knows what that is,
Sure.
right? Like it's clearly not popularizing the term or creating it. It's assuming that it's
Hmm.
context that the audience
Yeah,
will know.
but this is. I guess my point is that this is like around the beginning of when this term would have started to be used. I guess I don't know.
I don't know. Oh, apparently in the UK it was often said as 5 bobs.
Hmm. See, the thing is, I always kind of assumed that 2 bits was a British thing
It is, what is it?
because like they had all those complicated coinage back in the
Galleons and
day.
snitches and
Yes, those are the ones I'm talking about. Clearly,
okay. So apparently, 2 bits is a term in the United States and Canada. In the U.S., the bit is equal to 12.5 cents, a designation which dates from the colonial period, when the most common unit of currency was the Spanish dollar, also known as a piece of 8.
I have heard of pieces of 8.
Yeah, which was
That's
worth
what parrots
8.
yell.
And yep, notice one silver real was 1 bit. I wonder if there's any connection between the language here of a bit and a piece of 8 with programming and like computers, because it's multiples of 8, right?
Okay.
And a bit is a you know
Well, no, because a bit. So a bit is one,
yeah,
and bit just means binary digit, is what it's short for. And then a byte is 8.
right. But so a bit is 1/8 of a byte. So a bit is an eighth of a silver dollar. So byte is a silver dollar, a Spanish dollar, right?
Okay. I think we should popularize this.
This is actually historical fact. The
Yes. No, but we're gonna
early
start like with
programmers
we're,
were
we're gonna redefine like the sizes of hard drives in terms of like
silver dollars, Spanish dollars.
yes,
Well, everybody knows that the original computer scientists were Spanish pirates.
obviously.
Yes. It's interesting that it was the Spanish dollar was the most common unit of currency in English North America.
Yeah, I would not have expected that. I would have thought just like regular
British money.
British money.
Yeah.
I suppose it just depends how far south you go.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see if there is.
Tell us more about Spanish money in North American history.
I would have to do a lot more research on that. So yeah, that's shaving a haircut, 2 pence. Clearly something that was well known enough even before then for it to be existent and
Yes,
recognizable.
except they said 2 pence instead of 2 bits.
Right.
Because in this world, in North America, they did use British coinage.
That is more proof that the crown is the British crown.
Yes, which I think was confirmed explicitly. But see, if it had been 2 bits, part of a piece of 8 and using Spanish, then that
It
would
would
have
have
been
been
proof that it was actually the
Spanish
Spanish
royalty.
Empire that we
Yep.
had originally decided upon. All right.
Right.
So let's move on to our next section. And I've
So,
decided to merge Monster Corner into characters.
especially
Uh,
for this one, because all of our characters are technically Academy monsters.
Yes. Well, except
And
for the scientists who get fake
no,
murdered
they're Academy monsters too,
in their own way.
in their own way, different
Yes,
context.
that's true. We do have this idea that like the everyone's a monster of some kind,
Hmm.
physically or whatever.
Morally.
Yeah. So this is where you're going to insert the soundbite by Megafire and Danny Elfman.
Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange?
Yep. Credits where credit is due.
Yes.
Please reference our previous episode. So yeah, our first monster to talk about is Sylvester,
Yes.
who
Um,
demonstrates this monstrous instinct by being willing to stay behind and defend his little family group rather than leave everyone to fend for themselves. He basically outlines, yeah, Gordon, Helen, they could make it out. Mary could make it out. Lillian, maybe. Jamie, definitely not. I
and
don't remember
it's
if that was
Jamie who
explicit.
suggests that
Yeah,
everyone
ditch him.
fend for themselves,
Yeah,
which, coming from anyone else would be a rather awful thing to say, but coming from him is pretty
heroic.
self-sacrificial.
Yeah.
But Sylvester is the last person you'd expect to say frig that, and yet he's the first one to say it.
And I do wonder, had that suggestion come from Lillian, say, rather than Jamie, if he would have been as quick to jump on, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because of course he's going to want to do anything to save Jamie.
Yeah.
And if Jamie's the person in danger, then of course he's going to have his back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what would have happened if it had been Lillian who had said that. I'd say 50-50 odds on
Yeah.
that.
Though I feel like Sai would not believe it of himself still, but he probably would not have let any of them go by because the lambs mean everything to him.
Hmm.
And, even if he doesn't necessarily consider Lillian a lamb, she's still part of the in-group in a way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know either. I kind of want to think that he would want to stay behind for Lillian.
I would like to assume so, too.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we'll never know. There was that interesting little moment where he reaches up Mary's skirt and pulls a knife from her inner thigh.
One of probably dozens ensconced safely in any
Yes.
reachable portion.
Yes. And it's just like, Sai is just totally pushing
Limits.
the limits there.
Mm-hmm.
And like, given all we've been saying about him having a crush on her, it's like that pushes it even further.
Well, I thought it was interesting how little of it is actually made in the text, it feels.
Well, because Mary can't do anything about it because she has to put on a good face for the convicts.
True. True.
But
But Sai also
but
doesn't
she is
comment.
clearly furious.
Yeah, and she's furious for a lot of this.
That's true.
Either because I don't know if it's because because Sai chastises her or calls her whatever, a feral dog or whatever it was, or because she misjudged and did the wrong thing and she's upset at herself.
That's true. Because
Uh,
we know, and Sai points out, that Mary absolutely hates failing and doing the wrong
Yeah.
thing.
yeah,
And that's what she did here. And fortunately,
Sai talks everybody down.
yes, fortunately she makes it out of that. And even if he hadn't talked everyone down, she would have been the only one
Yeah.
affected by that, aside from Sai, who would be brokenhearted and would refuse to admit
It was like, oh well, I never needed her anyway.
it. As he cries in the corner
Mm-hmm.
and wonders what this strange liquid on his face is.
It's salty. It's weird.
Speaking of strange liquids on his face, he gets all bloodied up by that
Mm-hmm.
convict,
Breaks his tooth.
breaks his tooth.
I wonder how easy it is for an academy scientist to regrow a tooth. And caveat, are they going to spare that knowledge to regrow sites? Would Hale regrow
See, the thing is,
sites?
I kind of think they would. I mean, you can repair a broken tooth with, like, caps or implants
True.
or something in our world, so presumably they've got at least that.
If not better.
If not, well, if not...
Better
like,
for a given definition of better.
for a different... Yes. It's probably made of fungus and, you know...
You have to constantly shave it down. Like a beaver.
Yes. People just wander around with sticks to chew on
Gnawing on. Yeah.
for their tooth implants. And the big thing for Sai here is the fake murder of scientists.
Yeah.
More
More
which
than
we
one.
should have talked about in the plot section when we skipped past everything.
True. Sai fake murders a scientist who's not super quick on the uptake, but I do get where the scientist is coming from in not being quick on the uptake. There's like horrifying experiments coming at him to kill him, and creepy child telling, I am going to kill you. You're going to assume that he's telling the truth and is about
Yes.
to kill you.
Yeah, no one would believe that.
No.
I thought it was just so, like, it was so relatable.
Hmm.
The way the scientist, like, every time he's supposed to say something, he's like, what is going on?
I
I
don't
don't understand. I don't understand.
Like,
Like,
I'm
this
really
guy's the
not
most
dying.
relatable person in this whole story.
Yeah.
The way that Sai fakes it is really clever, which
Hmm.
makes sense for Sai. You know, he manages to convince the convict, literally in the same room as him,
Yeah.
that he has murdered this guy.
While this guy is still saying, like, what's going on? I don't understand. What is happening?
Yes, which is incredible.
Hmm.
I wonder if he would be how many of these would he be able to pull off? Because the next one he's able to do with his friends and before the convicts catch up.
Yeah.
So that's a lot easier.
And in a completely different method, though it's repeating the method Lillian used earlier.
Yes. So I don't think he'd get very far having to do this multiple times.
No,
But the fact that he was able to do it even once is pretty remarkable.
for sure.
So, like, we've seen him, like, talking down people, like talking down the convicts
Yeah.
who are
I mean,
about to murder Mary, trying to win their trust,
and
talking to previous characters in previous parts of the stories.
I
I
was
think
going to
this
say,
is
I was
like
going
one
to
of the
relate
best.
it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to relate it to him not being successful talking down the crowd in the previous arc, in the
Mm-hmm.
Shepherd's Church, when, the climax is going down and he does not succeed. It's not at all the same situation, but it is similarly tense and similarly confusing for everybody involved.
Sure.
And yet there he's unable
Like
to,
treating the convicts here as the
yeah,
same as the crowd
in a
in the
way,
last
it
arc.
feels like he is.
Yeah. Yeah,
Giving
he
them
could.
what they expect and then like subverting it in a way to be able to take control of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I just think like this one particular scene like shows off his strengths,
Oh yeah.
like at a next level to anything we've seen before.
Hmm.
So yeah, although I do feel really bad for that sign with all of his fingers broken and
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure he's happier with fingers broken than actually severed arteries.
yes,
If he ever realizes what happened and how close he actually was to, for all he knows, like this, there's an emergency, and this creepy kid shows up,
yes. I
and
mean,
these
for all we know, the entire bowels of the academy are going to just like cave
explode.
in.
True. Make sure
Total
nothing
party
gets
kill.
loose. Yep. Rocks fall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In terms of the other lambs, a few of like there are a lot of lambs here that don't really do a lot. Like Helen doesn't. We don't see a lot of Helen.
No, Gordon fails at opening a secret door. Says he needs 3 more minutes.
Yes, we should talk about Gordon failing to open a door for
For
like
20 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah, no, nothing more to say about Gordon, really. He does, everybody does what Sai expects them to do, except Lillian and Mary, and we've kind of already talked about them.
Yes.
And, like, there's not much more, I think. I don't have much
Yeah,
more
that's
to
true.
say.
Because like Mary and Lillian are really big in this chapter, but
Yeah,
we've already pretty much said the whole thing. Like they act against their instincts. Lillian. It is interesting that Lillian, the not lamb,
yeah,
is more
in sync.
in sync with the lambs than Mary, which makes sense because she's been with them longer.
Yeah, and it's, again, I think I might have said this earlier in the episode, but I feel like it's a bit of a sign that Sai doesn't quite know them as well as he thinks he does. He thinks he's got Mary and Lillian all figured out, and he does not, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I think Lillian, in the previous chapters, you know, she does stuff that he does not expect there either.
Yes, yeah, and it's usually, I think, always like to the benefit of the lambs
Yeah,
because he's always expecting her to not live up to the lambs, and
definitely.
she always does.
Hmm.
Even when she broke down
She was, yeah.
last chapter, like
And it's on a level beyond these kids are my gravy ticket to the academy, it feels. Like she at least on her side, it feels like she has a bond with them.
mm-hmm. I don't think she thinks of them as a gravy ticket to the academy at all. I think she thinks of them
Friends?
as her well as her family as much as the others think of each
Yeah.
other as a family.
Yeah.
And I mean, she does have. I think she has a real family that she lives with.
Maybe?
Well, she certainly doesn't live at the orphanage.
No, but she could be dorming at the academy.
That's true. But I think she does have actual parents. Like Mary has parents, or
No, she doesn't.
Mary is a clone of someone who has parents.
Yes, Mary had parents.
Um,
Mary 2.0 does not. Or
yes.
was Percy?
And Percy. But I think Lillian does have family, like actual family. I don't remember if that's been brought up or not, but I kind of have the impression that she does have
That Mary
like
does?
actual blood family in town, or
Sorry, that Mary does or Lillian
that
does?
Lillian does.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember it being brought up. I know we know Mary does, not just because she's a clone, but because the shepherd explicitly brought them up last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, but and I think that when Mary joined the Lamb, like Hale or someone else there mentioned that they had spoken to Mary's parents,
It's possible I've
presumably
forgotten
referring
that.
to
The
Mary
clone.
1.0's
Yeah.
parents.
Lesser Mary.
Yes, I'm assuming that Mary 1.0's parents don't know that their
Oh,
kid's been replaced.
almost certainly not. That'd be kind of. Well, I mean, I could see that being the way the academy is like, listen, your daughter's dead.
Well, I mean, it
There's a
also
clone
could
of
be
her.
it also is sort of like this is the sort of world where that's just like a thing that happens.
Well, clearly not, because then it wouldn't be a super cool new plan by Percy.
Okay, so being cloned and disposed of is not a thing that happens, but randomly dying because of a mad scientist doing mad science things
True.
is a
That is
thing.
true.
Like, I'm sure everybody knows somebody who went missing or died horribly
Eaten
due
by a
to
cat snake monster.
yes.
Yeah.
So, like, it would be awful, but, like, it wouldn't be that
Mhm.
unexpected for Mary 1.0's parents to receive the news, like, oh, sorry, your kid got
Murdered.
murdered or experiment.
Upon.
is
Vanished.
there a word for dying to mad science experiment? We should ask Jamie.
Well,
I'm sure
yeah, I
he
was
could
going to
figure
say,
that
build a word here.
out.
Discussion question. Build that word.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Do we have anything
So,
else to say about the lambs here?
don't think so.
Yeah, we're just sailing through here.
There was also, before we didn't write that down as notes, but before we move on to the context, I just wanted to note how that one scientist, not the one we've already talked about, but the other one that it's like, listen, we're not going to kill you, but we are going to kill you. She's like, that might actually kill me. She's like, but that's better than actually being dead, right?
And she agrees with that, so
Yep.
that tells you a lot.
Yep. I wanted to bring her up because I thought she was interesting. We got an actual name for her. I forgot what it is, but I wonder if she'll be relevant
yeah.
at some point again. Because we don't get a name for the first scientist, I believe.
No, we don't. I'm pretty sure we don't.
Yeah. Because this
It
one.
says her name is Joanna Kelper.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely not a name we've seen before, but it's a name here. So I'm curious whether let's try to remember that name.
Okay, let's see if it's in the tags, because
That'll
this
tell us
has
something.
tags for
No.
characters.
Gordon, Helen, Jamie, Lillian, Mary, SR, and
Sub Rosa.
Cy. Oh, Sub Rosa.
So it doesn't even have tags for the
Convicts.
convicts.
Well, we didn't get the convicts' names, did we?
No, we didn't. In fact, I wrote down what they're called here. There's
woman
5 of them. There's the convict leader, the woman, Beardy Baldy, Scraggly Beardy, and Older Man.
Yep. Very clear and coherent.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought it was interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I thought they were interesting. No, I think the only new things we learned about them as monsters, as experiments, was that the spikes going through their arms are electrified.
Yep. Which is presumably what the octopus eel thing on their back is doing.
You think it's an electric eel type thing?
I assumed that was the case, yeah.
I mean, it could be like one of those batteries that has like a liquid, whatever it's called.
That's possible, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a lot of things.
Because, I mean, what else?
Spy actually specifically says, like, he assumed that the spikes were hollow.
Yeah,
and were transporting nutrients from whatever's on their backs, but they're not. They're solid and they're electrified, or as they call it, voltaic.
Yeah. Also sounded pretty horrifying.
Yeah, I
Just
wonder if they're like constantly zapping themselves with them.
probably. I mean, like the said that the flesh around it was like oozing liquids and black and like putrescent.
I feel like that would happen anyway. If you're
Yeah,
getting
well, that's what I'm
giant
saying. It
spike
just
run
there's
through.
probably it's all dead anyway.
Yeah. Um, Kind of reminds me of those characters from Mistborn.
Which ones?
I don't remember what they're called, but they're like the bad guys. I'm looking
I
at
don't remember.
the Inquisitors.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Yep, with the spikes.
Yeah.
Yep, I can see that.
The other interesting thing about the convicts was that, like, we kind of thought when they first showed up
Yeah,
that Sub Rosa had gone to them specifically because she knew them.
but it just seems they're as mystified
Yeah,
as
they don't know what she's up to. They don't even know her.
they just decided she's the biggest, baddest thing around. Let's follow her,
Yeah.
which is reasonable in the bowels of the academy.
Mm-hmm.
Like she has not demonstrated hostile intent towards them. At least, like we can shelter in under her
Mm-hmm.
fleshy awnings or whatever.
Yeah. So it's just interesting that like she clearly knows them or knows of them.
Clearly has a purpose and a direction and a
Yeah.
goal, which
Like
they
maybe
are
she
not
just
privy
knows
to.
that like she has a thing that she needs to do, and the thing that she needs to do, all she needs is an electrified spike and a bug. And so she's
Hmm.
going to go to the people with the electrical spikes
I
and the
hadn't
people
thought
with
of
the
it that way.
bugs.
I had not considered it that way. But that makes sense, honestly, that she's like gathering the bits and bobs that she needs. And she needs a
Hmm.
talkie person with a badge. So she's gathered a Psy.
Well, she hasn't gathered Psy on purpose. Psy just
Well,
showed up, and
unless she knows that knew that would happen, and knew,
if she knew that that would happen, she's a better manipulator than Psy is.
I mean, isn't that potentially part of what her original project was? Is like being a good spy,
Yeah, it's being a good spy by being able to
be dead and then
communicate what she
alive.
said when she was dead.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. It just seems like she knows that Sai and the lambs are in there because she passes them on the stairs before she goes get those the convicts, and then she comes back leading the convicts to Sai and the lambs, which kind of makes it seem like they because she if I remember correctly she diverted to go near them. She didn't just pass by them, right?
No, I think she just passed by them.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I can't
I mean, I could be
quite
wrong
remember.
too. In terms of particular individuals,
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting that the leader, like, he describes the leader as savage and sadistic.
Yeah,
And he's also this big, huge guy, taller than everyone except Sub Rosa.
and with prison tattoos. And
Yes. But also, he describes him as, like, the way he talks, he's, like, super whiny and he's soft spoken. And it's like, this guy is, like soft spoken is one thing, but it's just the one, like, especially at the beginning when we
yeah,
first run across him, and he's just like, no, I don't like this. And it's just like, how is this guy the leader?
I just bulk and size. I mean, there's Sai goes pretty deep into like prison yard power structures.
Yeah. Sai knows a lot about prison yard power structures
It
for
feels like the kind of thing he would have done for light reading.
no, he doesn't read. That's the sort of thing Jamie would read. It's light reading. I bet that while Gordon was at the bars learning to fist fight, Sai was at the prison yard learning how to,
Watching,
yeah,
maybe.
maybe befriending the
Or Sai doesn't
local.
see a difference between the prison yard and the schoolyard.
I mean, in this environment, there's probably not as much difference as we might hope anyway.
Yeah.
Just dealing with Rick every day has taught him everything he needs to know about this stuff.
Yeah. And I like that his method for being good in in this situation, or disarming the convicts, is basically just be as alien and unnerving and Helen like as possible, because that just removes him from the like organizational schema in the convicts' minds. It's like
Yes,
he is not stronger or weaker. He doesn't have a place in our system. He's weird, and therefore like we need to take time to figure out how to react.
yes, and it works. Although we've talked about how Helen is not really precisely what Sai
No,
thinks she is, but
no, but this is what, yeah, he's acting like he thinks Helen
yes, and
is.
that's what he needs in this
Yeah.
particular situation. So that works perfectly.
Yep.
The other thing that I wanted to say was that the two, so like The older man we barely hear anything about. The woman
And
seems like a good leader, but then you have like the two scraggly guys, Beardy
yeah,
Baldy and Scraggly Beardy. It's like I kept picturing them as those two guys from Pirates of the
I
Caribbean.
can see it. I hadn't thought it until you wrote it, and then it's like, yeah, that is the mental image now
Yep.
for these characters.
Yeah. I mean, they're scraggly, beardy, one
And
bald, and the
yeah,
other. Yeah, it's like. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the convicts moving forward. Maybe we'll find out what's going on with the eel octopuses and
yeah. I mean, I have kind of at this point written off the eel octopuses as just the zappiness of it, but I
sure.
mean, they could still be being mind controlled by the eel octopus thing.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe we'll find out what their names are.
Beardy, baldy.
those are their actual names.
Yep. All right.
So then the
So
last one we need to talk about is Sub Rosa, but I think
yeah,
we've said most of that already.
I think we have.
So we still don't know what she's up to.
Nope. I
I
think
think we haven't learned anything new about her
um
this chapter at
no.
all.
I think Sai just comments about the way like the tubes are pulsing with bile and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah,
Yeah.
nothing
We
new
still
about it.
we still all we know is that she knows what she's doing, has a plan, has a lot of knowledge,
It's just making it more
and that's it.
concrete what we got at the end of last chapter about her,
Hmm.
which is we don't know anything.
Yeah, but hope, and it was so funny when that one scientist recognizes her and is about to say, "Hey, it's," and then she kills
Yeah.
him, and Sai is like, "My answers." But hopefully, now that she's about to march in on Skitter, we're going to get some answers there.
Hopefully, because Skitter is the
I think they just said relative.
okay, yeah, they didn't give us a specific relationship. Sorry, can you hear in the background?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah, some sort of relative of the scientist that
Mhm.
was in charge of
Made.
Sub Rosa's project.
Which is interesting. Does that mean because the way they phrase her made it sound like Skitter was an experiment, but
No, they didn't. We kind of riffed on that, but
maybe
they were very
that's
specific that she is a scientist here and that her
doing bug
project
stuff.
is based on bugs.
Okay.
So even though we were saying like, oh, they made an experiment based on
Hmm.
the
Yeah, maybe I'm
dinosaur novel
misremembering.
version of Worm, it
The
was pretty clear that she is a scientist here and
insect queen
not
and
the
the
monster.
mannequin man or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll
All
find
right.
out more about her. Maybe she'll have a name
In our next episode
in our exciting next episode, whenever it
comes
happens.
out
Yes,
tomorrow.
tomorrow. we'll release the next episode before we release this one.
Yeah, that's actually
That
in
might
our.
be that actually might be feasible since you're editing this one and I'm editing the next one, and you have a child to look after, and I only have cats.
Which are rambunctious in their own way.
Yes. Well, we'll release them in order. I'll be kind and generous to the continuity of space time by releasing them in order.
Sounds like a plan. All right. Anything else you want to say before we move on to the end? This is a pretty short episode, it seems, but
Yeah. So let's go on to our discussion question.
sure.
So our discussion question was, what Looney Tunes character are the rest of the lambs based on? And the only answer we got was from Sir Kotok, who said, I haven't watched Looney Tunes, so I can't answer the question.
Real helpful answer there.
I mean, it's a truthful answer, and that makes sense. So I was thinking what we could do is kind of expand that question a little bit and say, tell us
Cartoon.
any cartoon character the
Ever.
lambs are based on.
Which obscure
Which
one
obscure,
episode Disney Mickey Mouse cartoon character
yeah,
is Psy?
yeah. So we'll look at that next time. We'll look at Sweet Manzana's response next time, and then we thought we'll add, since we're recycling a question again, which we tend to do, we'll add another bonus
Mm-hmm.
discussion question.
So
And since there was a lot of fake murders in this episode, we were thinking, tell us your favorite examples of a fake murder,
or a fake death.
faking someone's death.
Doesn't
I
have
really
to
like
be a
the questions
murder.
where we're like, tell us your favorite example of such and such a thing, because
Mhm.
then we learn about all these interesting stories that we can check out later.
Yep.
Uh,
I agree.
so yeah. So that's our discussion questions.
Yeah.
And
Well, before we head out to the outro, I just wanted to add a quick book recommendation section. I just burned through the Skullomance trilogy by Naomi Novik, and it's really good. It's worth reading. It sort of is a riff in a way on Harry Potter. I don't want to go too deep into it, but it tackles like issues of privilege and all that kind of stuff. It was definitely worth reading.
okay, how did it end up on your?
My parents visited and my mom was reading it, so I took it and read it while she was here.
That works.
And then I ordered the other books because I read it really fast and I wanted to read the rest of them.
Yeah, you're a fast reader. I think I saw you talking about it on the Discord, and I ordered a copy from the library.
Oh,
And
good.
let me just see how many months I'm going to be waiting for the copy to arrive. A Deadly Education?
That's the one.
Yep, 14 weeks.
Oh, that's not so bad.
That's not so bad.
Are you reading it or are you audiobooking it?
Audiobooking it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm always curious how the audiobook versions of these different books sound. Because you said Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell was done really well in audiobook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I like audiobooks just because it's a convenient format, but also like having like a really good narrator to
Can
embody
kill a
the
book
story
or
is,
not kill a book, depending on
yes.
the reader. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that.
Good. Yeah, it's good. So,
What's it called?
A Deadly Education?
No, the series.
Oh, the Skullomance.
Skullomance.
Skullomance. Which apparently, historically or mythologically, is a school run by the devil to train wizards and sorcerers.
Okay.
So it's
I
Hogwarts.
feel like the devil has better things to do than
Then be a teacher?
be a yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's got to invest in the future of
Sure.
humanity. The children are our youth, or our future. Yeah. So yeah, anything you've been reading or want to recommend or want to talk about?
What have I been reading?
Well, if you don't have anything, you don't have to. I kind of sprang this out of the blue.
I was re-listening to The Bright Session,
What is that?
which is an audio drama. It's about a therapist who specializes in individuals with superhuman abilities,
Okay.
which might remind some of our listeners of a particular character from the Parahuman series.
I was wondering about that. Yeah, what like
Um,
is it similar or like
it
is it
is
when you
not
say
similar at all,
okay,
except in the case that both of the therapists in question are very
good.
likable characters.
Okay.
But it is very good. It's one of my favorite
When you say
audio dramas.
superhuman, do you mean like superpowers or do you mean
I
like
mean
more
superpowers.
supernatural? Okay, so it's not like, therapist to vampires and werewolves and
No.
like
It's
it's
like
Superman.
it's like this person can feel the emotions of the people around him, and he's struggling to integrate into society because of it. So he's seeing a
Understandable.
therapist to
Yeah.
help him out, and
What's it called?
it's a clever idea, and it's really interesting, and all the characters are very likable. And then there's some intrigue that gets dropped in,
Okay.
and it kind of escalates, and there's conspiracy and whatever, and it's quite good. I really like it, and I definitely recommend it. People like audio narratives, definitely worth checking that one out.
So what's it called and who's it by?
It is called The Bright Session.
Okay.
It's by Lauren Shippen.
And where does one find it? Is it just
One finds it by opening up their favorite podcast app and searching for The Bright Sessions.
okay? So it's not an audiobook. It's just
Yeah, it's an audio
Okay.
drama. It's a podcast.
sounds good. Cool. Great to know. All right. So everybody, thank you for listening. We hope you'll continue along with us for this trip into Twig, which you can read along with us at twigserial.wordpress.com. And if you do, or even if you don't, please go to Wildbow's Patreon at www.patreon.com/wildbow and support him. It's how he can produce all these different great stories and settings, especially in this inter-story period.
Yes.
We also invite you to leave your answers to our discussion question in our Reddit thread or our Discord thread on the Doof Discord.
You can reach us at totwigpodcast@gmail.com. We're TO Twig Podcast on the platform formerly known as Twitter. The Reddit thread in r/parahumans that we'll put up when the episode is released. And as you mentioned, our discussion thread in the Doof Discord. Kind thanks, as always, to them for letting us use their space. In the next episode, we'll be covering Lip Sealed 3.5 and 3.6 and
Yep.
Probably with the action heating up, it'll not be a super short episode like this one, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So our biology fact of the day. So it's another one of those facts like last time that you brought up the ladybird versus ladybug, Asian ladybird versus all that is one of those facts that makes the rounds on the internet fairly regularly. And that is that um you can subsist entirely on potatoes and butter.
Really, I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's one of those like yeah, like you don't need to eat anything but that. It has all the nutrients and vitamins and everything one needs to sustain life. And the general, I did a bit of research and Snopes kind of covered most of it pretty well. The
Okay,
In summary, yes, you can, but not well. So like, um, Catherine Basbaum was a cardiovascular dietitian for the University of Virginia Health System says there's a big difference between what your body needs to survive and what your body needs to work as best as it possibly can, to be as efficient, to be as healthy, to be as strong as it possibly can. There's a big difference between that and surviving. If you're hard pressed and had to do it, you could absolutely survive on it. Is it nutritious? Is it healthy and balanced? Absolutely not. However, Dana Huns, who's a senior dietitian at the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, disagreed, said yes, but you'd get really bored. Um,
yeah,
so there were a couple examples that they cited of people who had done it or attempted it. So in
to live
2010,
off of just potatoes and butter.
exactly, yeah. So in 2010, Chris Voigt, who was the head of the Washington State Potato Commission, supposedly did the diet for 2 months. Rumors are that he lost 23 pounds, and he denied it, but apparently there's a lot of rumors that he ended this early because it
Okay,
wasn't sustaining him. But in, I don't remember what year, I didn't note it down, there's an Australian man named Andrew Taylor who did it for a whole year. In that time, he lost 114 pounds. He was apparently overweight beforehand, and became quote unquote spud fit. But people looking at him, dietitians looking at him, said, obviously we're not analyzing him, we're not, covering him like that, but just at a glance, he looks malnourished. So I guess take it with a grain of salt, but in theory, yes, you kind of can live, but it will not be a good life. It's a
yeah, it
cursed
definitely would be a
half
good
life.
life. Especially for someone with culinary interests like you'd
Yeah.
probably die. But
Yeah.
like,
So one of the issues apparently is that there's a high, butter is very high in cholesterol, and apparently the high potassium content in potatoes can cause kidney problems.
okay,
So, like, yeah, you can
I'm
sort of.
just surprised that it would have all the nutrients that you need. Like, aren't you supposed to like you're supposed to have green vegetables as like a big part of your diet, and
Potatoes a
there's no
veggie.
green vegetables in potatoes
Butter is
and
a
butter,
vegetable.
not green ones. And if
That's
they are green, that's even worse.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. That's
Hmm,
yeah.
we'll have to try
Go for it. You let me know how it goes.
it. I'm allowed to add stuff to the potatoes and butter, right?
No, it has to be potato butter, maybe a bit of salt.
Oh, yeah. See, it didn't say salt. Well, you can use salted butter though.
That is
Does that count?
true. I have no idea. That is going into questions more than what
What if
my
I use peanut butter?
potatoes and peanut butter does not sound pleasant.
No, but I'm just saying, if it has to be potatoes and butter, like maybe I could have potato chips sometimes, peanut butter sometimes, and
Mhm. I think yeah. I don't know if that'll get you through that spud fit look.
are
Yep.
you allowed to drink water in this diet?
Yes, I
Okay.
assume one have to.
I don't know. Like they could be like you have
If
to
there's
get
enough
all of your
water in a potato to.
yes. You have to just boil them until they're real soggy.
Ugh,
I
this sounds so unpleasant.
mean, the whole thing sounds unpleasant.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to talk about or add or?
No, let's wrap it up.